Worried that your AI generated content sounds too robotic? I'll show you how to make AI sound more human, both literally and figuratively. First, I'm going to share the common mistakes that make AI sound really robotic and how to fix them. Next, you're going to learn the specific technique to make your AI sound more human and more natural. Then I'll show you how to add real life examples and stories to your content so it's not just the same old boring stuff. And finally, I'm going to tell you how you can actually clone your voice so you can make AI literally sound like you. My name is Brittany Long. Let's jump into it. The biggest mistake that I see people making when they're using AI to sound like them in their writing is by taking the first draft. They take the first thing that AI gives them, and I have to be honest, the first thing AI gives you, especially if you're not using a transcript, is not always very good. Most of the time, it's gonna be generic. It's gonna have a lot of treasure troves and dive and delve and unleash and unlock and revolutionize and all the stuff that you're seeing pop up all the time. You see it popping up all the time because most of the people using AI, most of the people using ChatGPT don't know how to use it well. But at the end of this video, you're gonna know how to use it well. You're gonna be at the top % of people using it without sounding like a robot. So in addition to not taking the first draft, we want to give ChatGPT some feedback. An example prompt might look like this. ChatGPT, I'm going to give you some feedback and I want you to make updates to what you wrote based on that feedback. When I'm giving ChatGPT feedback, I'm going to copy and paste what it gave me and I'll go line by line giving my feedback. I know you're thinking, but Brittany, that's going to take so much longer. I could just do it myself in the same time. But here's the thing. This is the same flawed thought process that keeps us from hiring other people. It's the same flawed thought process that keeps us in this cycle of doing everything in our business all the time. The longer you continue to try to do it all yourself because it's faster, the more work you have made for yourself in the long run. Think about it for a second. If you have to train AI for 10 minutes once a day for 2 weeks, that's 140 minutes. How much longer will it take you to create all the copy and all the content that you have to create for the entire year? Probably a lot longer than 140 minutes, right? That's just over 2 hours. So if you think you'll spend less than 2 hours a year writing all your own copy and content, then sure, no need to use AI. But if you think it's gonna take you more than 2 hours a year to create all your copy, all your content, all your everything for the year, then you need to listen up. Feedback is a vital piece of all of this. Other kinds of feedback I might give in my prompt to ChatGPT. So I said, ChatGPT, I want you to make updates based on the feedback I'm giving you. Here's some of the feedback I want to make. I copy and pasted what it gave me and I started to give it feedback. Feedback is like, I like this thing and here's why. I don't like what you wrote here and here's why. Instead of this, I want you to write this instead. The more specific you can get with your feedback, the better output you're going to get from ChatGPT in the future. And that brings me to my next point, how to make it sound more human. Maybe you're getting great content, but it just doesn't feel or sound human enough. So what do? Give up? Throw in the towel? Of course not. What you're gonna do is tell ChatGPT what you do want. So you might say something like, when you said this, it sounded way too robotic. It sounded way too cold. It sounded like everybody else. It sounded too general. It sounded too businessy. I'm giving you some examples of what you might put in there. And then you could say, instead of that, I want you to sound more like a human. Pretend like you're a human talking to other humans. Pretend like if your brand is relatable. Pretend like you're a friend who's a business owner talking to another friend who's a business owner. One other prompt that I use is I'll say to ChatGPT, literally no one talks like this. Nobody has ever in the history of the earth said this phrase because it's so awkward or it's so unlike a human. But letting it know nobody talks like this, it seems like it's almost like a trigger for ChatGPT to say, oh, okay, I understand now what they want. And almost every time that phrase, no one talks like this, will work for me with ChatGPT. Weird trick, but it works. Okay, so we've talked about how to make it sound more human, how to get more of what you want. Let's talk about how to add in more storytelling. As you probably know, storytelling sells. Stories, especially when done right, can be really connecting from one person to another. And in a time where you can literally talk to anyone pretty much across the planet in seconds, yet we still feel so disconnected, stories are more important than ever. And if you've watched any of my other videos or heard from my podcast, you know that I have type 2 diabetes, you know that I like to run, you know that I had a cancer scare a few years back, that I have a child, that I'm a former middle school science teacher. And if any of those things relate to you, if you've ever experienced any of those things, then we have a connection. We have another way to connect and talk about something that's deeper than just business. Now, there's a bazillion people out there talking about business. There's a bazillion people out there that are solving a similar problem to the one you're solving. The more you can connect with other people with your stories and stories that connect to their stories, the easier it is to build rapport and actually help the people in your audience. So how do you get ChatGPT to know your stories? That's when we create a story bank. A story bank is not something you're gonna do in one fell swoop. It's something that you'll do over time. And for me personally, I like to have one single chat that I put any stories into. I try to spend at least 5 minutes a day adding a story into there. It can be a big story or a little story. It can be a funny one. It can be a sad one, but just sharing some information about my life in there. Now, one of the ways that I like to do this is through a private podcast episode. I have a private podcast that's just for my daughter. She doesn't know it exists yet because she's only 4. But one day she will. I always wish that I was able to have a better picture of who my parents were when they were my age, who my grandparents were when they were my age. And because every day I spend a little bit of time sharing the stories from that day, my kiddo gets to look back when she's my age, when she's 35, 36, and see what was going on in my life and get a better picture of how I felt about the world around me, about myself, about her at that particular period in my life. And because I like to make the most of my time and repurpose as much as possible, I also add the transcript into ChatGPT with those stories. And speaking of private podcasts and voice, there's a way for you to get an AI voice that sounds like you. I use a tool called 11 Labs. With 11 Labs, you're able to upload text and have it actually read it in your voice. This is really cool for a few reasons. One, let's say you're a student and you're studying and you want to hear the things that you're studying, your flashcards, whatever it is, in your headphones as you're walking to class, as you're doing something else. You're able to do that now. Or maybe you're like me and get a lot of germs from the preschool that your kid goes to and you get sick all the time. There was a period of time where I lost my voice for almost 3 weeks. I have podcasts to get out. I have things to do. And so I recorded my podcast episodes using this clone voice with 11 Labs so I didn't fall behind on my podcast. And for me, it sounded just like me. In fact, there's been a few times where I didn't actually know if it was my voice and I recorded it or if it was my AI voice. That's how good it can get. All you have to do is upload yourself talking for about 30 minutes and it takes it from there and trains the voice. If you like learning about how you can make AI sound more like you, both literally and figuratively, you're gonna love my free guide to 120 ways you can use AI in your business and life. I spent the last 18 plus months figuring out all the ways you can use ChatGPT and the ones that you probably shouldn't use it for that I've thrown out of there. You don't have to make the same mistakes I did, go through the same learning process. I'm giving you the shortcut right now and you get it for free. My name is Brittany Long. Click the link that comes with this video to get my guide to 120 ways you can use AI in your business and life starting today.